Some of Donald Trump's most fervent supporters, part of the High Council of Cult 45, as I like to call it, took to the media to react to the news of his second indictment by Jack Smith for attempting to overturn the 2020 election and steal the presidency from Joe Biden. And their reactions ranged from despair to outrage, but both were hilarious. All of the emotions were hilarious. And before we unpack all of it, if you haven't yet, please hit that like, subscribe, and the alert bell, and maybe check out my Patreon. I'd appreciate the support. So as the news of the indictment will percolate, I imagine you will have more and more conservative thought leaders giving a range of takes, again, outrage, despair, and we're probably going to unpack them as time goes on because we need that schadenfreude to sustain us. But I went ahead and picked three particular people, three members of the Cult 45 High Council, the erstwhile governor. She's not the governor, but she claims she's the governor of Arizona, Kari Lake. We're going to start with her. Then we're going to go to Marjorie Taylor Greene, and then we're going to conclude with Lauren Boebert. I want you to see their reactions. We're going to unpack them. This is Kari Lake on Newsmax. Let's hear what she has to say.
Also, why are they putting out another fake indictment the day after crooked Joe Biden scandal, one of the biggest Americans in American history, broke out in the halls of Congress, a nation in decline?
Now, just for clarity here, this trough that the Newsmax host is reading to kind of tee Kari Lake up, this is in reference to Devon Archer, the business associate of Hunter Biden, who testified in a closed-door session of Congress. This is the scandal that Donald Trump is talking about. And that business associate, Devon Archer, said, listen, yeah, Hunter Biden would put his dad on speakerphone from time to time over the course of 10 years, but at no point did they ever talk business. And I also don't know anything about bribes. That's the scandal, the biggest scandal, one of the biggest in American history. That's the one that Donald Trump is talking about. So anyway, take it away, Kari.
Kari, final thought.
Absolutely. We are a nation in trouble right now. And I think the people see it very clearly what's going on. And, you know, they can keep doing this to President Trump. I believe his poll numbers will continue to go up.
They can keep doing this to President Trump? Okay. Don't threaten me with a good time.
I really believe that those other people running in the Republican race should stand up, speak out in support of President Trump, talk about how this is an injustice unlike we've ever seen with our Department of Justice going after an innocent man. And frankly, they should suspend their campaigns and step behind and support President Trump and the American people so we can save this great country.
Yep. I think even some liberals might even agree with you. Kari Lake, thank you.
What liberals? Okay. Yeah, so she's calling on Donald Trump's competitors, people like Ron DeSantis and Mike Pence and Chris Christie and Vivek Ramaswamy, to suspend their campaigns? Not likely. But again, it's interesting. She has obviously a very tenuous relationship with reality as it is. So I don't think people are going to be taking campaign advice from her. Now let's turn to Marjorie Taylor Greene. This was her reaction to Real America's Voice. I think that's on the OANN network, but I could be wrong. This is what she has to say.
Going to be soon indicting President Trump in Washington, D.C., and it's going to be something like we've never seen before. I think it's going to truly put not only President Trump and his family, all of his staff, put them to a test they've never been tested on, but it's also going to test our nation. And it's something that I've prayed about a lot, and it's just sad to me. Jack Smith,
Before we turn to her little screed about Jack Smith, I agree that it is a test of the nation because I think there has been a reluctance of the Biden Department of Justice to prosecute Donald Trump. I think there's actual credible reporting, credible facts to indicate that they've bent over backwards to avoid trying to go toe-to-toe with this guy. There was that great New York Times expose from a couple of months ago where many Department of Justice sources were consulted, and they were like, look, it was for the sake of unity, for the sake of avoiding claims of partisanship. The Department of Justice basically sat on investigations into Donald Trump and his inner circle regarding the theft of the 2020 election for more than a year. You contrast that with how Brazil handled attempts by its fascist former leader to try to steal an election or to take control in a second unelected term, and they reacted within days. I mean, it's orders of magnitude apart. So I do think it's a test for the nation because Again, our Department of Justice has been a bit feckless. Now, I do think that Jack Smith has demonstrated that he's willing to go the distance, but this should have been the case. He should have been appointed, and Merrick Garland should have found the wherewithal to do this much earlier and should not have wasted a year and a half of time, in my opinion. Anyway, carry on, Marjorie.
He's a terrible attorney. He has a lot of failures in his career, but he is abusing his power, the power of the special counsel and the department.
Marjorie Taylor Greene fears an abuse of power. She's critical of an abuse of power, assuming that that's what this is. And obviously it's not, but just again, the irony is thick. A Trump supporter condemning an abuse of power. It's hilarious.
Of Justice, and he was going to be soon. And
so there you go. She's, of course, accusing Jack Smith of an abuse of power. And now I want to conclude with Lauren Boebert and her scintillating constitutional commentary. Take it away, Lauren.
We were doing our role. We were not rubber stamping states that we saw massive irregularities in the voting where tens of thousands.
There were no massive irregularities in the voting. She's factually wrong about this. This has been debunked time and time again by Trump's own Department of Homeland Security, by his own FBI. It's just absolutely not true.
Thousands, hundreds of thousands of ballots were mailed out illegally. It is illegal.
No, that would be for the courts to adjudicate, and that's not the case. She and Trump lost, I think it was like 60 out of 62 court cases. They were never able to prove that as a fact of the matter. They're wrong.
For states to change election laws, that is something, for states to change election
Looks like she froze there.
laws, that is something, for the federal government to change election laws,
The federal government didn't change election laws.
Secretaries of state or rogue judges.
Secretaries of state are allowed to implement voting laws within the parameters of their state constitution and state law. They're the ones who actually execute the policy, so they do have a great deal of influence over how elections are administered. But of course, she's not citing any examples. Then she goes on to say rogue judges because, of course, she doesn't like the outcomes of the adjudication, even though in many instances they were conservative judges deciding against Trump, and in many instances Trump appointed conservative judges.
It is up to the state legislature, and that did not happen. And so we objected to several states who did exactly that. They changed their state election law, and the Constitution says it's the state legislature that changes those. And
in all of those court cases, there was no determination that any state or any state actor changed election laws in a way that's illegal or unconstitutional. She's again wrong on the matter.
That is why we objected. There was nothing illegal, certainly nothing for President Trump to be indicted over. But now I hope he uses this indictment to go to each and every state that we had in question and finally fix our elections and secure them once and for all.
So yeah, that's copium of the highest order. Listen, the fact of the matter is, despite all this, Donald Trump is still competitive. I mean, we're 16, 15 months out from the presidential election. He may very well win. President Biden, as much as I like the guy, is a relatively unpopular incumbent, and we have a relatively short attention span as a people, as a society. So Donald Trump, don't count him out yet. And we'll see what happens. He's entitled to the legal presumption of innocence, even though the rest of us know he's guilty as sin. So we'll see what happens. It's entirely possible that this case doesn't go the way that Jack Smith wants, but I wouldn't trust Lauren Boebert or Marjorie Taylor Greene or Kari Lake's constitutional or legal analysis on the matter. Donald Trump's probably better off looking for competent attorneys, although, according to reporting, he's struggling in that respect too. Sorry, Don.